Okay. I think we're live here. I think. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Welcome as people come in. Welcome to Castaway Media. Yeah. Oh, now it's going live. There we go. Live on Facebook too now. Got it. Okay. We're live on both places. Okay. I think comments comes through there. Give people a little bit more time to come on in. Because that's the fun of this, isn't it? I think we need to turn on the brightness a little bit. Because I am whitewashed on that one. There we go. Not so bad. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So you're seeing comments there.
Yep. Yeah. So just kind of wait a little bit for a few more people to join. We'll get cracking into this fun time. All right. Yeah.
So here we have, does this tell us how many viewers?
I don't know. Oh, this is one right there. So,
Okay.
yeah, that also shows viewers.
So what's she doing? Oh, teapots.
Yep. Our lovely publishers, for those of you that will be watching the recording of this. Okay. Yeah, all right. Okay. Couple minutes in here. I think more people will show up in a little bit, hopefully. Yeah. So that'll be good, right? Okay. Make sure that everybody can hear me. I think everybody can hear me pretty well on the live streams. I hope. Otherwise, it just looks like I'm lip syncing, which is not the intent. Okay.
So I am going to go check sound in the other room.
Okay, yes, welcome, Deanna Piana, also known as my mother. Okay. Hopefully we can get a few more people here before we get going. Yeah. So more people would be on here immediately, but should take a few minutes probably, I suppose, for people to notice this. Okay. Got lovely noises in the background, I'm pretty sure. It's a great time. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you're good. Go ahead and get started.
Okay. So, yeah. Hello, everyone. Those watching the recording and those here live with us. I'm Ken, as you know. I mean, otherwise, why would you be watching this, right? Welcome to my first live Q&A. I'm super excited to be here with you. So if people can start, asking questions that you want to know about my books, me as a person, my writing process, just any of that good old stuff. While we wait for others to join us, while you start asking and typing your questions up, I'm going to give a brief overview of my first book, Castaway Hero, which was published a little over a year ago, and then a little overview of The Dark Hero, which is my next upcoming book. So with the Castaway Hero, we start with James, who arrives in kind of our main area, the Middlelands, with no memory of who he was, where he's from, no memory except for his name. And he is found by a kindly fisherman by the name of Jahone, who takes him in, and unfortunately soon after that, Jahone is kidnapped and taken away by trolls who believe that he is an oracle, and thus begins the epic saga of the Castaway Hero. So James then embarks on this quest with Jahone's two sons, Aaron and Kai, to go and collect these magical Peacekeeper Stones that were, to their knowledge, nothing but myth and legend until they started hunting for them. And so throughout that book, they face dragons and giants and ferocious wolf-like creatures known as grunkles, one of my favorite creations of all time, to basically get the power to be able to rescue Jahon and, of course, his wife Mia. And now let's talk a little bit about the Dark Hero. Not a lot of people have heard much behind the scenes as far as what is going on in that book, but that book picks up kind of a year after the events of the Castaway Hero. At this point, our team has kind of broken up. James and Fen, the troll that they befriended before, have been journeying for this year period throughout the Middlelands, trying to track down the rest of the Peacekeeper Stones. Meanwhile, Aaron and Kai returned back to their home in Ambulity, the lovely little hamlet of a town that they hail from, and Kayla, the love interest of James and the last member of their party, has returned home with her father. Now, while they're out adventuring, James and Fen follow a lead that leads them to a old enemy that many might recognize from book one, Father Youngstein, and he tells them that it's too late, that that Ambulity is under attack and will be destroyed before they can get there. And so they run there and then discover it in ruins, and that begins their reuniting with the rest of their team, with Aaron and Kai and Kayla, as they decide, okay, now we need to work extra hard to collect the Peacekeeper Stones so we can protect the Middlelands. And along that journey, we find out more about the new mysterious leader of the trolls, the Malevolent One, who's kind of the big bad of the series. And we also get to add a few new members to the team, including another troll by the name of Gilbert, who's one of my personal favorite characters, and as well as Aponi, who is a bad-a warrior gal who Aaron may or may not end up having a huge crush on. So that's kind of a little bit about this upcoming book, The Dark Hero. And now, with great pleasure, I get to announce that the next book in the series, The Dark Hero, will be available July 10th. Thank you so much to my parents, Spencer and Deanna, for all they've done to kind of help me out along the way. Huge shout out to Teapot's Away Media, my publisher, who have mentored me kind of as we've gone through this process, and as we continue to pump out this awesome series. So I have a few questions rolling in, as well as some questions from the comments on previous posts. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to have my lovely assistant, my mother, from behind the camera, read off these questions. So yeah, welcome, Kara.
So Melissa asked a few questions. The first one is, what is your writing pet peeve?
My writing pet peeve would probably be when things are too easy, when there's not really any real struggle for the win, no real conflict, because there's no story if there's no real conflict. If it's too easy for the heroes, it's just kind of obnoxious for me.
Okay. How do you maintain the motivation to write?
That is an excellent question. I suppose the way I maintain motivation to write is just kind of remembering that I have a message that I want to get across in all of my books, that there's good that comes of my writing. That's kind of what keeps me motivated to write, is just remembering that, believe it or not, the world sort of needs the kind of stuff that I create.
Do you have a favorite time of day that you like to write?
I mean, I'd write at all hours of the day, even the middle of the night on occasion. I guess usually afternoon, evening is when I get my best writing done. So I guess you could say that's my favorite time of day to write.
Melissa also wants to know, what is your favorite trope? Maybe tell people what a trope is, just in case there's somebody like me who isn't sure.
For those that don't know what a trope is kind of something that, think of like stereotypes. It's kind of like what a trope is. Tropes might include like Deus Ex Machina, where things come in to save the day at the last minute, or that sort of thing, or always the male and the female protagonists fall in love, right? Welcome, Nathaniel, to the live stream. So the question was,
what is your favorite trope?
My favorite trope. My favorite trope is probably the trope of the male and female leads kind of falling for each other. I mean, it's kind of a classic staple of a lot of fantasy, especially. Yeah.
Okay. How would you describe your process? Are thou a plotter or a pantser?
I'm honestly a mix of both plotter and pantser. For those that don't know, plotters are kind of people who plot out every single little detail, and just kind of it's a very thorough outline. Whereas pantsers, they don't know where the story is going. They're just like, write a bit. I personally probably err more on the plotter side of things. My process, especially for these last few books, has kind of been very, very well a mix of plotting and pantsing. Basically, what I've done is I've kind of figured out kind of what my endpoint is, what will get my characters from the beginning and the end, and then I basically kind of lay out in my writing software a numbered outline where I'm like, this event happens, this event happens, this event happens, and then I kind of figure out, okay, it'll probably take 2-3 chapters for this section, 1 chapter for this, and just kind of lay it out like that, so I have a pretty clear road ahead. So let's see, I have a question here in the chat here on Instagram from Kara. She asks, how do you come up with your fantasy names? There are a variety of ways that I've come up with names. One of the ways I tend to do is I use a website called Behind the Name, and I look up kind of the meaning I want behind that name, and it kind of search through, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that name would fit with this world and culture. Another way, which is a very interesting way I learned at a writing conference, is kind of like laying out the meaning of that you want behind the name, or kind of a description of that name, and then you kind of remove letters and syllables until it looks somewhat like a name. I think that's actually how I got Drogna City, which is one of the locations that is in the Dark Hero. It was that kind of strategy. So yeah.
Maddie Lowe is on Facebook, and she wants to know, do you want to be a writer full-time, or do you have other career aspirations as well?
Well, I would like to, of course, be full-timing it, so to speak, but I also have aspirations, I guess you could say, of basically also running the podcast that I currently run with my friend Melissa, the Writer's World, as well as kind of a just a small network of related shows. I think that'd be an awesome thing to run and be part of my career. And I also, of course, want to, like be a presenter and teach classes and stuff about, writing, raise up the next generation with my career.
Okay. I'm not seeing the questions on Instagram.
I'm seeing them, so.
If you're seeing them, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ready for another question?
Yes.
What is your favorite book?
That is a next to impossible question to answer. I guess my favorite series, well, even that's difficult to answer, but right now I've been really thoroughly enjoying rereading through a lot of Rick Riordan's books, the Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Heroes of Olympus, and right now I'm reading through Trials of Apollo, which I've been quite enjoying as well. So I guess, yeah, that would be within that question, I suppose.
What's your favorite genre to read then?
Fantasy, all the way. Especially like ones that take place in different worlds or just have a lot of magic in them. That's top tier reading material for me.
What else do you like to read though? Do
A
you
lot of-
only read fantasy?
I read a lot of self-help books as well, just because that's the way my schooling has trained me. My school has a tendency to read a lot of those books, and I as such, I quite enjoy them.
Okay. What inspired you to become an author?
This is one of my favorite stories to tell. So I actually used to hate writing. Those of you who know me personally may have heard me talk about how this happened. But there was a point when my mother would say that it was weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth to get me to write a measly paragraph of about 2 sentences. But what changed all of that was I went to, I believe it was a book launch for one of Richard Paul Evans' books. And at that book launch, they also had a youth author by the name of Mackenzie Wagner who was selling her book there. And as I got up there to meet her and buy one of her books, I was like, dang, she's not that much older than me, actually. If this gal can write and have success, why can't I? So that kind of what first inspired me, and from there, I wrote my first book, and it just kind of went from there, But that was kind of what first inspired me.
What's the hardest part of the writing process?
Hardest part, getting started, especially after you've been like in other mode for a while. Just getting started on any part of the process. That is always the hardest part, because like once you get rolling, once you get the ball rolling, it's just kind of you get going and it's perfectly fine. You can get through it, but as far as like a larger chunk of the process, I'd say editing is probably the hardest. Apologies to my my great editors and stuff, but editing is not fun. It's probably my least favorite part of the process. But
do you believe in writer's block?
Not really. Writer's block is, I think, a limiting term. Those of you who've listened to our Writer's World episode on the topic will know I prefer to term it writer's slowdown or writer's slow, because that block, honestly, is what creates the writer's block. Is considering it as a block. It's more of a creative slowdown, in my opinion. When you're a creative person, you never stop being creative. You just might have like a slowdown of ideas. Like I've had times where I've had like 10 different series ideas in a day, and other times when I've had like no inspiration whatsoever. So I don't really believe in writer's block. I believe in writer's slowdown.
Do you prefer writing with pen and paper or a computer?
by far a computer, because it's a lot easier for me to edit. I don't have to then transfer it over to my computer for my editors and everything to handle. So I definitely prefer typing on the computer, at least for like main projects. Like if I have an idea or something I need to jot down, or like I quite enjoy journaling and that sort of thing. Like yeah, pen and paper, totally. But for the actual process of writing books, definitely computer.
Well, I think you've already kind of covered this, but do you outline your books before you start writing?
Yes, in some capacity or another. I mean, like the outlining process for the Castaway Hero was quite different from the process I've used for the last 3 books that we've got coming up here. But yeah, I generally outline before a book.
But you didn't do that with your first one, right?
No, I did not do it for the first one exactly. Kind of the way I outlined for book 1, if I remember right, because this was 5-6 years ago, was what we would do is me and my mom would sit down as we were working through it, and we would, kind of discuss what could happen next. They should be going here next. This is what should happen in this next chapter, and she would write that kind of down, so I had an outline to go off of. And then I would write the book, and that was kind of the process for book 1. Whereas, as I outlined earlier, my process for books 2, 3, and 4 have been more or less the same in their own way. They've been their own form of outlining, but yeah.
Okay, so I like this one. Which character from your books do you relate the most to?
Oh, which one do I relate most to? I guess I'd probably say Fen, our lovely outcast, part troll, part human, because he doesn't feel like he quite fits in, like exactly somewhere, and he's constantly trying to kind of find his place in the world, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I mean, next year I'll be graduating high school, and I'm still trying to find my place in life, right? And that's a lot like Fen. So that's kind of why I guess he'd be the one I sympathize most with.
If you could have any of the Peacekeeper Stones, which one would you choose?
If I could have it,
Uh-huh.
any of the Peacekeeper Stones. I don't know. Maybe the Nightmare Stone, which is one that we're introduced to in book 2 here, because partially because of malevolent purposes, but I could use it to induce nightmares in people. So that yes, that's the one I would choose. I know I might sound evil that way, but yes, I think I would choose the Nightmare Stone. We have another question here on the Instagram chat, saying, "Hey Ken, where do you find the motivation to sit in the chair and write?" So really, I find the motivation in it's definitely not a motivation of money, because I've not gotten a ton of money out of this so far. I think the motivation kind of comes from the want to share this epic world that I have with people, because really, like, there's this vast world inside of my head that I get to write about in my books, and I want to be able to share that with people. I want people to be able to be as enthusiastic and want to get into the nitty gritty and love this world as much as I have. That's a large part of my motivation.
Awesome. We have another question on Facebook. How has homeschooling influenced your writing path?
I don't think I would have gone on the writing path if I wasn't homeschooled. I mean, really, I don't think we would have even gone to the book launch that inspired me if I wasn't homeschooled. And as part of my homeschooling background, I kind of learned to want to shoot big, and to be my own person, and not be afraid to aspire, and that kind of wouldn't have been possible without the homeschooling background, I think. So we have another question here on Instagram, asking, what books do you compare your series to? That I compare it to, I would compare it perhaps a little bit to Percy Jackson, sort of, maybe a little bit with, it's just kind of like a lot of fantasy books. My favorite that I've heard anybody else compare it to is somebody left a review on it on Castaway Hero, comparing it as a very Rick Riordan, J.R.R. Tolkien-esque book, and I absolutely loved that. Didn't give him a big head at all. But
was that on Amazon? Or?
Yeah, on Amazon, somebody had left a review and compared it to Riordan and Tolkien in writing. I like that.
That's flattering, isn't it?
It's very flattering. Yeah.
Aunt Becky says hi. Where is your favorite place to write?
My favorite place to write? I only ever write in one place, really, which is my office upstairs. But I think I'll go ahead and alter that a little bit, to a question of, where do I like to look for ideas, or gather ideas. And I think one of my favorite places to go for ideas is just kind of going out in nature, or just like exploring around, because there's a lot of inspiration to be found everywhere, and nature is a great place to go to find inspiration for any story or anything like that.
When did you first begin writing?
So I first began writing. I first began writing when I first began the Castaway Hero, and that was when I was 11. And over the process of the years of age 11 and 12 is where I first kind of got my start in writing. And of course, the last few years, as I've gotten published and everything, that's of course hugely increased the amount of writing I've done. But I'd say probably since I was 11.
We have another question on Facebook.
Okay.
In the future, will some of the people get married?
Oh.
We want to know spoilers, apparently.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'll be showing any marriages in this series. At least. I'd imagine. I'd imagine some of them would get married. Some of them are meant to be together, right? Myself, the author playing, playing God, they're destined, they're soulmates, whatever, right? I imagine there will be marriages, but not within the series. It'd probably be something that happens off screen or something like that. So
when they're a little more grown up.
Yeah, when they're a little more grown up. These characters are in their late teens right now. They're not exactly at the age to be getting married, even in a quasi medieval world.
All right. What advice would you give a novice writer?
What advice would I give a novice writer? I'd probably just kind of say that just kind of keep on, I guess. It's difficult when you're first starting out, because you're like, well, nobody's ever going to want to read this. This is not worth anything, But what you got to realize is that even if this particular idea is not the one that will be published, the one that will get you fame, the one that will help you start a career, it will help you along your way. You know, you can always recycle ideas. You can always draw inspiration, and just writing in general will help you to, you know, kind of get to the point where you are able to be published, where you're able to actually make a difference and impact with your writing.
Nice. If your book was made into a movie, who would play your characters?
Ooh, okay. I don't know. Let's see. James would probably have to be, I don't know, probably one of the guys that's in like a boy band or something like that, you know? I can picture him with those kind of looks and stuff, you know, the a little bit longer hair at times, you know, he's kind of good looking, you know. I don't know, probably somebody from like Harry Styles or something from One Direction or whatever. Kayla would probably end up being like, I don't know, I could see like Emma Watson or something playing. She just needs like a kind of blondish, strawberry blondish wig or whatever, right? I could totally see Fen as being played maybe by I don't remember the guy's name, but he's in Avengers Endgame, or not Endgame, Infinity War. He plays the dwarf or whatever that's on that Unnibbable Ear. Kai would probably be just about any energetic young actor. Aaron would probably be another boy band guy. I don't know. I don't know all the famous actors well enough. If they were actually all grown up, a full adults, I would have a better idea. But I don't know enough of the younger actors to say reliably. But.
Okay. What famous or non-famous author do you wish you could be? Do you wish could be your mentor?
Ooh. Brandon Sanderson. That man is impressive when it comes to world building, which is one of my favorite parts of writing. If I could be mentored by him, heck yes. Yeah, he's like what I aspire to be. You know, like almost everybody knows Brandon Sanderson, even if they haven't read his stuff. They know somebody that loves his writing. I'd love to be mentored by him. Yeah.
Would you rather only have summer or only have winter?
Oof. I would only have summer probably because it's pretty easy to cool off in the summer. You know, you can go up in the mountains or you can go to a splash pad or something of the like. And yeah, I'd say I'd always have summer. Yeah.
Do you prefer movies or books?
When it comes to like the story or same title or whatever, I prefer books generally because they're just generally better. Most movies are not the greatest adaptations of a story. However, that being said, I quite enjoy myself some good movies, but its primary source of entertainment definitely books.
Do you prefer to read ebooks or physical books?
I prefer physical books wherever possible. However, when I don't have a ton of money or anything like that, I am more than happy to use ebooks, like on my Kindle or that sort of thing.
When did you first realize you wanted to be an author?
Kind of already talked about this a little bit, but I think when I first really wanted to be like full-time, like an author was when we first actually kind of got introduced to our publishers because I hadn't really considered that as a career path at that point. Up to that point, my main want to be was a scientist or something of the like. But once we, actually had a publisher interested in my writing, I was like, oh, maybe I can make a go of this. Maybe I could be a author, and so that kind of led to me wanting to be an author. So probably that first connection with our publisher and everything, where they expressed an actual interest in my story.
Okay, we have one more on this question, so one more on this page. So then if there's any others that people want to throw out there, now is the time.
All right.
This last question on here is, what are some of your favorite hobbies?
I have a lot of hobbies. You don't even want to get me started on this. I am very much a creative person, so I have a lot of creative hobbies. I do a good amount of watercolor painting. I play the guitar. Occasionally do a little bit of sketching. Like I have quite a few hobbies.
Hiking?
Hiking. That's not so much of a creative one, but hiking and adventuring, that stuff is all kind of what I would qualify as hobbies. Yeah. So if we could get a few more questions, that'd be fantastic. But I'm not really seeing any. So thank you all for joining us today. I hope you gained something out of this. I know I certainly have thought about a few things in different ways than I had anticipated. So just so everybody knows, this will be available as a recording, at least on Instagram. We're going to see about possibly on Facebook and YouTube as well. And just keep on writing, y'all. Okay, share to IGTV.
Is it stopped on Facebook?
If you end